Hello, everyone. It's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. I have a lot of gray in my beard. I don't see this from this angle as often. I hope this is coming through okay. I'm in DC. I stopped in DC in order to do an interview with Lee and Garland Nixon and Lee Stranahan on Fault Lines. Um, I had a side conversation with Garland. It's funny, and the conversation I had with Garland was a similar conversation that I was going to do a show on last night. So I'm just have a conversation here. Um, how do you win in lefty politics? Not from the standpoint of a hack, but if you mean it. Like if you really want to get things accomplished, if you mean it, you're a lefty. You want to get in office. You want to get things accomplished. And I think what we find is, looking at it from a perspective of somebody like Sanders, you're not going to have money. The dollars are fundamentally going to be against you. I'm not talking about Republican politics. I'm talking about left-wing politics. You want to make change. You want to move the crowd. You want to get things done. You want to get things accomplished. But more than that, you need to galvanize the public to be on your side. And like I made the point before, you have all of these people in all these various different worlds who have all these different belief systems about the way things should go, not because they came to this belief systems in and of themselves, but because they were born in a particular family that had a particular cultural line in a particular country. You need to get those people. How do you get those people? Now, bring this to where we are now, and you have a bunch of people who are pissed off all across the spectrum. Those people are pissed off and those people are angry, and you're stuck with a political decision. How do you move the crowd? What I would wager to you and what I would put to you is you move the crowd by dealing with issues that they care about. This isn't magic. It's like, how do I lose weight? I lose weight by eating less. Same thing with the political thing. How do I move the crowd? I move the crowd by dealing with issues that they care about, that piss them off, that adequately, that affect them. If they care, because somebody in their family is going to be sick, I guarantee you all across the distribution of the 99%, there's somebody in their family that's been sick, that's been ill. They care about it. They know what Medicare for All is. They get that on a guttural level, from a flesh to bone level. What I'm making the point to you is that you move the crowd in lefty politics by sticking with items that people understand, and you scream it at the top of your lungs. You will be attacked. They will say things about you that is unfair. They would say that you're an anti-Semite, even if you're a Jew. They would say that you're racist, even if you were chained to a black woman in the civil rights movement. They would say all of these bad, horrible things about you because you're willing to touch a door. The interesting point, what we were talking about with Trump, was that in the op-ed, one of the things that they attacked Trump on was in this odd occurrence where Trump every so often would say things that lefties will like, that even right-wingers will like. Maybe we shouldn't keep in these wars. Why do you keep putting me in situations where I'm antagonistic towards Russia when I want to stop this antagonisms back and forth? Why am I continuously being in these things? The catch is, whether you're Jeremy Corbyn or whether you're Donald Trump, you will be attacked. The fact with Donald Trump, he's a reality show host. He don't know any different. But let's say Trump out. Let's say Sanders. And let's say you want to have those conversations about things that are big and major, that have a certain amount of economic impact associated with it. Let's say that you're that guy. Let's say that you're Donald Trump and say, I want to keep our troops out of Syria. That maybe I don't want our troops being in North Korea. Let's say that you're that guy. All right, I need to move. But let's say that you're that guy. The key point is, they're going to attack you anywhere. But as they attack you in those things, the public that you've galvanized will back you up. That's the key point. If you be their advocate, if you be the person that these people are looking for, that these people are looking to be their advocate and to be their champion, they will back you up.
In 1.5 miles, use the right 2 lanes.
Look
to
at
take
Corbyn
the I-395 south
in Britain.
exit toward Richmond.
They've called him everything but a child of God. They've called him racist. They've called him they've put up a speech that had nothing to do with anti-Semitism and said that this speech has something to do with anti-Semitism. And why? Why? All because Theresa May is a zombie prime minister. She's falling apart. And because she's falling apart, they're terrified. They think that this man who said good things about Palestinians and said that he was going to somehow represent the interests of Palestinians. maybe prime minister, and it freaked them. And they're using anything that they can for. Look at Sanders. Same thing with Sanders. The fact is that there's some issues where you get into foreign policy that are difficult, if not impossible, to talk about. The point I want to make here is they're not impossible at all. They're difficult to talk about because people are terrified if you touch those doors. Hey, maybe we should get our troops out of North Korea. Maybe we should end the Korean War. Maybe every time something comes up that we're considering or calling a false flag, maybe those things need to be investigated before you say that the Syrian government has something to do with it. Those are difficult topics, but they're only difficult because there's somewhat of a consensus in regards to politics in the United States. The point I want to make here, that if you really want to get things done, whether you're Bernie Sanders, whether you're Donald Trump, meaning whether you're on the left or the right, you got to be willing to hit those doors. If you're representing the interests of the population that put you in that office, however, they will still back you up and they will support you. Jeremy Corbyn at Labour has a 4-point lead in Britain. Everything that they said about Donald Trump, for whatever reason, Donald Trump is still getting by. It's not easy. Don't misunderstand me. If it's you...
In 600 feet, turn left onto Vermont Avenue Northwest.
I'm going to end this because I don't want to have a traffic emergency in D.C. But if it's you, and if you're in the driver's seat, and you want to make certain decisions, and you realize that there's certain things and certain doors that you touch that are blazing hot, that there's fire in those doors, that people are screaming about things that are in those doors, maybe those are the doors that you need to go through. That's all I'm getting at. And if you go through those doors, the public itself, if you're representing their interests, will support you. That's all I'm getting at. That's the key point that I want to make. I'm going to expound upon this in a larger way. I don't want to die on the railways in Washington, D.C. But that's... If the public believe that I am functioning in this interest, if they believe that I am their advocate, that I am pushing for things that are in their interest, that even in cases that they believe that I'm wrong, they believe that I'm wrong for honest ends, they will back you. It looks as if they won't because mainstream media seems as if it's reality. Mainstream media comes across as if it is a reality. It is not the reality. It is a reality that they somewhat generate and they create.
Left onto H Street Northwest.
Motherfucker, I need a break. I need a park. I need an area where I can park. Look, my point to this, and I hope I made this point pretty basic. Alright, here we are.
Turn right onto K Street Northwest.
I'm operating a vehicle in DC. Look, my point is this. It comes across as if there's certain areas you can't go and certain things that you can't talk about. Whether you're talking about pulling troops out of North Korea, whether you're talking about false flags from the standpoint of Syrian chemical weapon strikes, whether you want to talk about the Skripal thing, there are all sorts of things that come across as being false flags in the standpoint of parlance of our conversation in Washington. I'm saying that those things are the very doors that you need to pull on if you want to get real change. The things that seem real and solid, that seem unmovable, are the very things that are, yes, hot politically, but at the same token that you need to touch. If you make the argument to the population, that population will support you. That's all I'm getting across. It comes across as if you're talking about certain things that are off the table. If Donald Trump, he comes across as toxic on the situation of Russia. And so anything that wants to be done from the standpoint, if it be coded as if it's Trump and Russia, it becomes difficult, if not impossible, to do. The same, my stream was interrupted. I'm going to end this here because I don't want this one to go too long. This one has already gone relatively long. If you want to win in our politics, it's anti-establishment politics. That's what I'm talking about, on the left or the right. You're tapping into something. And the stream that you're tapping into, a certain amount of anger and rage and hostility at the way things have gone by. The public may not fully get all of the philosophy that's involved in the reason why people do things. It may not even get all the machinations that are involved. But from the standpoint of the anti-establishment, the public gets that the system is corrupt. They get that what's been taking place is not in their interest. They get all those things on a guttural level. Be their advocate. Be the person that takes the hit when things are not necessarily in your interest. Be the person that makes that hit when you're pushing for things that are in their interest. And those people will support you and those people will back you up. That's the only basic point that I want to get. That takes a lot of words to get to that point. In part because I thought I was going to be hit by a car. I just want to make that case. And I'll make it a little bit more fully when I get home. But if you want to talk about Corbyn, if you want to talk about Sanders, even to an odd degree, if you want to talk about Trump from the standpoint of the thing of getting us out of the military things abroad, I think that's true. The polling on these things, Corbyn has maintained, despite the ridiculousness that they've hit him with. Sanders, despite the ridiculousness of calling them racist and everything else, has maintained and made gains in that standpoint of this idea of multiculturalism from the standpoint of Sanders' camp. And Donald Trump, despite all the things that they've said about him, they call him everything but a child of God, his poll levels have maintained. And you can make an argument among African Americans have improved. Now, I would argue that has less to do with Trump and more to do with the effectiveness of the Democratic Party, but either way, the media is losing its power and its say-so over the domain of all matters of reality. And if you really want to be at a point from the anti-establishment of getting something done, there's certain doors that you will need to go through. And I agree with you that those doors are hot. But I think the public will support you. Less war is one of those doors. Deifying John McCain, a warmonger. Less war. I think the public will support you. I'm going to end this here. I will see you guys at my normal station in a couple of hours. Thanks, guys. I hope my point is clear on this. Or at the very least, I hope it makes sense. All right, guys. Y'all have a good one. How do I close this? How do I close this? How do I close this? I don't know how to close this. Oh, by the way, if you enjoy the content, feel free to assist through PayPal or Patreon. Oh, there's a super chat thing. I'm not there at my console, so I don't necessarily know if the super chat thing will work and show Vulcan and everything else like normal. You know, I say that at the end of every video. My wife says, stop talking about ends. I talk about ends because they demonetize the channel, and so it brings it to the forefront. Look, I've always been very open about the way this channel operates. To some degree, I think that's been to my detriment, or not necessarily to the betterment. I think shows like Door, they just put up videos and they don't engage with the audience like talking about. So the audience has a different expectation from the standpoint of a show like mine versus a sample like Door. Fair enough. I've set the guidelines by which I interact, just by the way I interact. I am sick of relying on Google. If you enjoy what I put down, if you find yourself coming to a lot, even if you can assist with $1, please do so. And I say that through Patreon or through PayPal. We are renegotiating the realms in which we operate Patreon because we want to make it real. Like not just putting up items, but we want to stick with the guidelines of whatever we put up with. Look, I just want to do the news. I just want to do my shows. And so I will put up the stuff in earnest on the things that we guide by. But what I would say is you will have shows and we're going to add more content to Patreon and everything else. So even if you can support with $1 is not nothing. It helps. So I want to say thank you very much to everyone who helps this show. And I'll see you guys back at my own place in a few. Thanks all. Now, how do I close this? Because I'm at a loss. Are you sure you want to stop streaming? Yes, I want to stop streaming. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support through Patreon. Thanks all.